I go back and forth between hating and loving. Today I woke up from a dream. It felt so real to me, like I was walking through the clouds, and you told me to tone it down. Well, if we disagree on what's important to you or me.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Team Self-Love podcast. This is episode 2. The show is about discovering your self-worth and helping you love yourself because you're worth it. I'm your host, Lindsay Taylor Mitchell, and this is my dear friend, Dennis.
Hello everyone.
He is my friend's boyfriend, and he is actually a Chinese teacher, which is really awesome. And I'm super jealous because I wish I spoke Chinese. It's so fun. So you're going to be teaching at Granada Hills, right?
Yeah, I'm actually going to be starting this week, so it's really exciting. There's always kind of the beginning of the school year rush where you're kind of excited and nervous. You have a lot of lesson planning to do, but I'm really excited to meet the students, and I'm ready for it.
Awesome. So, you've been teaching for 8 years, right? You said? Learning for 8 years, I mean.
Correct. I took 8 years of classes, but I've been teaching for... That's a tough one to answer, actually. I've been teaching, you could say, for about 5 years or so, but in the classroom in public schools for 2 or 3 years.
Oh, wow. That's so awesome. All I know is ni hao ma. How are you?
Sounds great.
Oh, thank you. I tried to learn other things, I know xie xie, which is thank you. Mm-hmm. But yeah, because I used to work at a Chinese restaurant, but that's all I learned. Because it's very difficult. Xiaolong bao. Yeah, that's true. It's the pronunciation, I think, that's really hard, because you can say something and then it sounds like something else, obviously, you know.
Yeah, but as long as you're having fun with it, I think if you are enjoying it, you're having fun with it, then the pronunciation, all those kinds of smaller things will come later on. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's really true. Okay, so today we're talking about accepting yourself and self-independence, which is so huge and so important, and really a huge part of Team Self-Love. And Dennis and I have talked a few times, and when I first met Dennis, we really got into a self-talk and self-love stuff. And I remember when Evan told me about you, he was like, oh, you're gonna love him. He loves Team Self-Love and all that stuff. So I was so excited. So basically, how did you go about accepting yourself? How do you think that came about? Because
I really kind of have to start with my upbringing, with my parents. My mother just really made it a strong point that everything, your successes, your failures, it comes from yourself. It comes from within. And so having that sense of power and empowerment, from a young age, I think that really set the foundation for it. And of course, there are experiences that are a little bit more negative that also contributed to that. A lot of processing, reflection. So it wasn't such an easy, wake up one morning feeling like you really value yourself. It took years of cultivation.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that too for me. It took me a few years of figuring out myself and that positive self-talk and changing your mentality of how you view yourself. And for me, I would even look in the mirror and say, I'm good enough. I'm happy enough. I'm pretty enough. I can do this, and just kind of that whole thing in the mirror. And just sort of try to be positive about who I am, and accepting yourself, because I think that we fail all the time, and we learn from that. And for me personally, I remember I took an improv class and I didn't do well. I couldn't figure out who I was, and we played this game called Cocktail Party, and you have to guess your character, and I was Indiana Jones, and I got so confused because of some of the references. And my teacher just told us, you're learning. It's a process. You're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. And I love that aspect of your failures are your own and that they come from you, because we can often blame other things. Yeah,
for sure. And also, it's my background is really kind of alternative, if you will. My parents were kind of Well, in a way you could say they're kind of hippies.
Oh, nice.
But really they experimented with different spiritual concepts and different religions. And so there's that little like new agey flavor to my upbringing. I remember even in high school we had gone up to Washington for this kind of enlightenment retreat.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so, we were camping out in a tent, waking up really early, and had these daily lectures and exercises and meditation and things like that. And, even though it's not something that I practice today, it's still kind of like a part of my being.
Definitely.
And I think it's helped my willingness to explore and kind of consider new thoughts and ideas.
Yeah.
But people don't necessarily even have to have such like a somewhat different background to go through that sort of exploration.
That's very true, yeah. No, 100%. I think for me, I grew up Catholic, like not super conservative, but in a nuclear family, per se. And we, I just learned later on about acceptance of yourself and sort of like that self-love. And I grew up in a very loving family, but I don't know, we never really learned about loving yourself or doing things on your own, like taking yourself on a date or any of that kind of stuff. But later on, especially from yoga, I like started to learn about that kind of thing and that spirituality. And I really loved it. And also the meditating and how that can clear your mind and help you and just getting you in that right sort of state of self-acceptance. And about like pushing yourself to try new things, because you never know, meditation could work for you, or positive self-talk, or literally saying stuff in the mirror, or writing things down. Like, you never know. And
I feel like the main part of it is learning to accept those mistakes. I know that we kind of glossed over it and mentioned it briefly, but I think a lot of people nowadays are very afraid to make mistakes, especially because the younger generation, millennials if you will, like it's all about competition. If you make any small mistake, you feel like, how am I going to compete with other people for this job that I really want, or how am I going to make a name for myself? But really, everyone has made their mistakes, even the most successful people. And I feel like people are just so hard on themselves. And I say people because I was particularly hard on myself as well. And it just, the more that you make mistakes, it gets to a point where you say, I'm tired of being frustrated. I want to do better for myself. And there's kind of that reinvention of yourself that comes from, hitting a certain point. And really it takes a lot of reflection and introspection to really make changes and grow from those mistakes. And I think that reflection part's missing.
Yeah, definitely.
How often are we so caught up in that challenge, in that competition, where we don't take time out of our day to really reflect? And you don't have to take 5-10 minutes, set that aside specifically for reflection, but when something happens in that moment where you can say, man, I really don't like this outcome, it's like, I'm going to make it better next time. And then you can go from there and think of a way to improve upon that.
Definitely. No, actually that reminds me, my theater teacher, my voice teacher would tell us after every time, like every performance, you need to look back and reflect and say, how did I feel about that? Do I feel like, could I do better? What did I not like? What did I do like? And remember to save those things. But exactly, failure and making mistakes, that's perfectly okay. People make mistakes, especially when you're still learning. That learning curve, it's bound to happen, and that people understand. And even people that have been doing things for a long time still make mistakes, because we're all human. And you can't help it. Like, it's just the way that it is. But you learn from it. And I remember my friend Evan actually told me about how they did a study of American students and Chinese students, and how Chinese students in China, and how they were surveyed of like, how do you feel about your abilities in math? And the Chinese students were like, I don't feel like I did very well. And the American students were like, I did pretty well. But then in reality, the Chinese students actually tested higher, because many Chinese students were raised on effort-based praise, which is like, well, you need to work harder. And I think sometimes we have a problem of saying, well, you messed up, but you're still so great. Well, that's true, but at the same time, you need to reflect and think, okay, well, maybe I could have done this better, or maybe I should have changed that for the next time so that you can do better next time, instead of saying, well, it's fine, I'm fine. You have to accept that sometimes there was a flaw or mistake, and you can improve on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and, just having my background as a teacher, it really ties into that fixed mindset, growth mindset sort of thing.
Yeah.
Where even people who think of themselves as doing really well in a particular area, you're right, because their focus isn't on the effort, and it's more on how they've performed in the past and their self-perceptions, in their abilities, instead of, like you said, that effort. Even people who tend to perform really well, it's like once they perform badly or make a mistake, that's where it's really easy to crash and burn.
Definitely.
And people who think of themselves as consistently failing or underperforming, then if you don't value the effort, how are you going to go up from there?
That's very true.
And kind of reflecting on my own experiences and how I kind of got here, that's the thing that I do is language learning, and how can you improve your language ability if you don't get out and practice? I remember in the very beginning, well, even when I was little, my family is from a Hispanic background. My mother's side is from Mexico. I didn't grow up speaking Spanish because I was really afraid to practice. And it was that fear of failing, fear of making a mistake. And somehow, maybe it was that enlightenment camp, for all I know, in high school. Yeah.
Yes, they were like, Dennis, learn to speak Spanish.
No, actually, when I started high school and started learning Chinese, that fear, it was still there, but I slowly kind of, I guess, trained myself to minimalize it and get out there and just speak with people.
Yeah.
It's scary.
It's terrifying, honestly. I remember I was in Spanish class, and they'd call on me, and I'd get so terrified because I could read and write very well and listen, but when I spoke, I just was it's so scary, but you just kind of have to push through the fear, and you'll learn, by talking. Exactly, and just putting yourself out there and knowing that you're going to make a mistake, but that's okay. But like going back to just accepting that part of like, it's going to be scary, but it's going to be okay, Yeah. I love that.
And I feel like this can also tie into not just work or school or professional sort of aspects of your life, but relationships too. I know for myself, I run into relationships almost fearless. And I think it's because I carry with myself that mindset that even if this relationship, somehow just flies off the rails and does something super disastrous, I know that I'm going to live to see another day.
Very true.
Nothing is going to be ever so disastrous that you're not going to see the next day. So, it's almost like, what do you have to lose?
Exactly.
You can get negative experiences, but at the same time, it's those negative experiences that we learn from positive ones too, right? Because those reinforce those good behaviors or those wonderful things that we want to continue to do. But, every time I have some sort of negative experience where maybe this relationship is just bumming me out, but I'm going to be stronger for it.
Exactly. No, the negative parts always make you grow. And yeah, exactly. The positive reinforces those good behaviors. But the negative is like when you grow so much from that, from those struggles. They make you realize so much. And you have to, sometimes when you get out of your comfort zone, you fail, you learn. And yeah, those struggles are so important in life because you learn so much. And through different things for my life recently, I have learned immensely about myself and great things about myself, maybe not so great things about myself that I can work on. And I actually had a sort of epiphany, and through like some trials recently, I realized I wanted to help people, and I wanted to sort of get out there and talk about self-love and self-worth. And I never would have realized it if it weren't for like these struggles that I was really going through. And so you never know what will come of it, you know? It's amazing.
Exactly. You know, kind of going back to that, how I mentioned that there was a part of my relationship in the past that wasn't quite working out. You know, without that, I wouldn't have learned to value the relationships that I do have, not just, you know, with my boyfriend, but also friends and family as well.
Yeah.
You know, knowing what something is like when it's bad allows you to see what something is when it's really, truly good. Mm-hmm. Right?
And you appreciate those more.
Exactly. It's almost like, you know, when a parent wants to teach a kid a value of $1, they're going to make them really work hard for it, because when you see how much time, effort, and all these things that we don't really want to do go into something, it's like when you finally have something that's truly good, you're like, wow, I deserve this.
Yeah.
I went through something that's kind of maybe not so ideal, but, you know, I can savor the good thing now.
Exactly. Yeah. And you really appreciate what you have, or, yeah, from learning about, you know, being unhappy, you realize what happiness is and how grateful you can be for happiness, or how great your friendships are, and that does take energy and effort and time, but it's worth it. You know what I mean? Like putting in those hours and being there for people, it's so valuable, because you get that back from them, and that's what life is about. And also we want to talk about like self-independence, so kind of like doing things on your own. And I had actually, funny story, a very good friend of mine, Kacey, Leggio, she actually took herself on a date the other day, and she made an Instagram story about it, and it was phenomenal. I was laughing so hard. I was crying laughing, and it was amazing and motivational as well. But she said, you know, I haven't been feeling so well, I'm going to take myself on a date. And then
Nice.
next video, she's like, where do you want to go? I don't know. Where do you want to go? Wait, I can just go wherever I want. And so she got to go wherever she wanted. She got to park far away because she wanted to. She took herself to the movie that she wanted to take herself to the movie too. And she just did all these things on her own. And that is so important. I mean, I like eat all alone all the time in restaurants. I love it. And also it's fun because you get to people watch too. I'm really a fan of that. But
yeah, just kind of even thinking about that concept of like going on a date with yourself. I feel like it has to be so fulfilling, just because it does give you that time for just being within yourself, that introspection, that reflection. Even if you're not actively doing it, it's a form of meditation, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
Because your mind, the wheels
sense.
aren't churning, you know, and kind of focusing on how you're talking to someone else. It's not like being bombarded with, not that interpersonal relationships and communications are stressful, but it's like, you know, when you're with someone else, you have to be on. Your switch is turned on.
Exactly.
And this allows you to kind of turn the switch off for a little bit. Take a power nap.
Exactly. For me, especially too, I am very extroverted and I talk a lot. And I also listen a lot as well too. But sometimes I just want to be quiet. Just, you know, and it's nice to be with someone and be quiet, but sometimes you don't get that, you know, very often. And so going out and being by yourself, you can just sort of calm down and just sort of watch other people and do your own thing. And you could do some work or reading, or just enjoy being present and just being present. And I remember I've gone ramen by myself before, and I just sit there and I just look around, and, you know, everything's fine. And I think that part of that as well, my dear friend Evan, he told me it's spotlight theory sometimes, where you think everybody's watching me, and oh my God, why is that person alone? Like, what are they doing by themselves? But in reality, everybody else is just thinking, oh, okay, that person's alone. It doesn't matter. No one really notices. You're totally fine. And yeah, I remember when I used to work at Din Tai Fung, and people get food all the time and they'd be alone. It's like, who cares? You know, you're just kind of doing things on your own, and that's great. And you shouldn't deny yourself that, because I think before I used to always like get takeout and not sit there, and now I'm like, I'm just gonna sit here.
Oh, yeah.
Could treat myself.
Well, it's kind of funny because I'm like you, the kind of person that really thrives off of other people's company. And I love talking a fair amount myself. But no, this year in particular, I've been making such an effort to get out there and reconnect with myself. And that was exactly one of the things that I did. I would start going out on my own, going to the mall, or just kind of driving around or doing something that allowed me to find myself again, because 2016 was just such a tumultuous year on so many levels.
Yes.
I feel like that name is just going to go down as one of those years.
Yeah, seriously.
And
2016 didn't happen, everybody. It did not happen.
It's all about 2017. But no, it really kind of is. And just being able to go out and find that peace of mind, it's like I feel like I'm on top of the world almost. And that's kind of one of the things that we had talked about before, was having a year of.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? So with 2016 having been so much of a WTF kind of moment, it's like I have to give the credit actually to some of my closest friends, and actually one of my closest friends and her mother. They said, you know what? Screw it. We're going to make 2017 the year of Dennis. And at first I was like, oh, whatever. Like,
yeah, what is this?
I didn't take it seriously at all. But, we renamed our little group chat in the phone to the year of Dennis and threw in some, hey girl emojis or whatever. And it started off as such a complete joke, but every positive thing, we go like, year of Dennis, woo, like...
That's so great. Yeah. And having someone in that with you, like, as well. Because I started an Instagram account for, like, the year of Lindsay now, because of Dennis. And I don't really have anybody follow it, because I just wanted it as my own personal thing. And you can share it with people, or you can do it by yourself. I know, that idea of a jar for the year, where you write down every happy memory, and then on New Year's Eve or the next day you go through it and reflect on those really awesome moments, because you sometimes forget.
Oh, yeah.
But having that, and having that sense of like, hey, this is your year, and this will validate you, like, this is good for you, or that was awesome that this happened, or an event, and you told me you started to, do the things again that you really like to do.
Yeah. I mean, last year it was tough because it kind of was a little bit of an attack on all fronts. I just got out of a relationship, and I knew that my job at the time was going to be coming to an end, because I'd been focusing on schooling, and of course I had to move and relocate, and when I moved to that new area, it's like, okay, well then who am I going to have around me as support and for friendship? Because even though I went back to where I grew up in Orange County, I didn't really have too many connections around there, so it wasn't necessarily lonely, but it was. And so having that little group chat with the year of Dennis to celebrate the small victories had a really profound effect that I had no idea was coming.
Yeah.
Because it started off as like, hey guys, went to the mall, made a new friend, just, went to the arcade, played a game or two, and like thought nothing of it, but now I'm friends with this person. And then they'd celebrate with me, and then it kind of also infected, if you will, their own lives, because then they would tell me of, something positive that happened to them. Like, I know that they went on a trip, and they were, sharing a whole bunch of pictures and saying that, this, it's our year too, it's everyone's year. And so like everything, with the three of us, we kind of fed off that positive energy of just having that group chat being dedicated to positivity.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how actually, like, the last blog post that I wrote about was about positivity and like surrounding yourself with positivity, and how when you are inspired and you decide to make changes, that inspires other people. And how, it's your year and you're doing all these amazing things, and then they think, why can't I do that? You know, why can't I get out there and do even a little thing? And like, making a friend is so huge, honestly. I think that through school, it's so easy to make friends, but like, in the real world, like, it can be difficult. It really can be.
Yeah, and it's especially gratifying when you make friends, like, I say, out in the wild. You know? It's like,
100%. It is it's a wild world.
yeah, you have your coworkers who I hope are amazing people, because everyone wants to be in a really wonderful work environment. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be friends that you want to invite to karaoke or to just come over and have a heart-to-heart. And so when you do go out and do something that matches with your likes and your hobbies, you kind of surround yourself with people who also enjoy doing that thing, and it becomes easier to make those new connections.
Exactly.
With something that you enjoy doing at the heart of it.
Yeah, and plus it's an easy conversation.
Yeah.
You know, if you're both at, I don't know, like Sprouts, and you're buying, you know, some tofu or something. And
how about that organic cucumber?
Oh, shoot, yeah, hell yeah. And like, you're like, oh, hey, like, da, 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 you know, you could strike up a conversation about that. And so, it's really awesome and really helpful as well to sort of get out there and have that year of. And I don't think I've ever heard of that before, honestly.
Honestly, now that I think about it, I don't think I have either.
Trademark. TM.
Copyright, trademark. Okay.
Yeah. It's Dennis's now. No. But yeah, like having a year of, and I think that if you can do that in any sort of form, like the jar thing or like an Instagram account, at least for me personally, like the Instagram helps me because I have like pictures and a way to organize the pictures. So like, for example, I just took a quick selfie, like went to the farmer's market and had a really great time, and having that, that validation, it just helps immensely. And I don't know, I really enjoy it. I really like this year of aspect, and I didn't get into it until recently, but I'm really liking it so far.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah. It's been really fun. Back to like also the self-date and like the year of, it doesn't have to be this thing where you spend all this money on yourself. I mean, I one time did a treat yourself day and I spent money. But I think for me, going on a hike is immense. Like, it immensely helps me. Like, that's huge for me. Or, going to the pool, going to the jacuzzi, just taking a drive, going to the beach, just spending some time on your own, or just doing something that you enjoy can really kind of reset yourself.
Yeah, and I think also something that can really go hand in hand with that year of sort of thing is saying yes to opportunities that kind of come across your path. And I hadn't really thought too much about this one before, but, you know, when you invited me to join you on this podcast and kind of think, okay, well, what makes me click? And I never had considered that was kind of a key piece to how I approach a lot of things. You know, I've been invited to a lot of things in the Chinese teaching community locally around here, and I never say no to it, because if you say yes to one thing, that's going to open up so many new doors.
Oh my gosh, so true, yeah. And
the most recent thing is, like, I didn't know how much I really enjoyed audiobooks, because I'm the kind of person that doesn't really like to read too much.
Oh, okay. I don't like to read either. I mean, I like self-help books and like bullets or numbers of like do this, do that. Oh yeah, I fuck with the cookbooks.
Definitely, but it's like, you know, it sounds so silly that like, oh, this teacher like hates reading, but you know, it's
difficult, and you can listen to the audiobook in the car. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You can just be I clean my room and listen to a podcast, or
I never had realized that I enjoyed that so much, because it was part of an assignment for one of the courses that I'm taking, and I had to get a book read really quickly and write a paper on it, and I was like, okay, well, how am I going to tackle this? I don't want to sit my ass in that bed for however long to just read. And I was like, I never thought about it, but I could download an audiobook and I
Hell
can
yeah.
take a shower, do my hair, and yeah.
It's so productive. Yeah, see? I mean, but people that like reading, please continue to like reading.
Of
because reading's great, but also, like, it's difficult sometimes.
But what I want, to get out of that is say yes to it. Instead of just taking the easy way out and finding some online review, which is academic dishonesty. Don't ever do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
I knew that I had to find a way to get it done, and I hadn't considered it before. So it was a new opportunity, if you will, that I just hadn't considered. I found out something new about myself.
Yeah, no. I actually took an improv class, and one of the chapters is say yes, but well, in improv you say yes and, because the idea is that you say yes and then you build for the scene. It's bad to say no, and it's bad to say yes but, because then you're just negating everything. But saying yes and so they said practice saying yes, and it was so freeing and amazing. I just kept doing these new things, and it was hilarious because I was leaving class, and a friend of mine actually was going to a Buddhist meeting, and I don't know, we were just walking and talking, and she said, yeah, I'm going to a Buddhist meeting, and I was like, oh, cool. She goes, you want to come? And I said, yeah, sure.
See,
not knowing anything about
sure.
Buddhism. Yeah. Oopsie. Oh, God. Like, not knowing anything about Buddhism, I was like, yeah, sure, yes, and I ended up loving it and learning about it, and I converted, actually, recently.
Nice.
Yeah, and so I would have never done that if it weren't for just saying yes and just trying something and seeing where it goes. And if not, then it's not for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One of the other kind of recent little anecdotes that I could think about is I went to Mexico to visit my family, and I'm not the best at speaking Spanish, and I'm not the most connected with my family in Mexico. But recently we've been like reestablishing connections, and it's been absolutely wonderful. I remember them from my childhood, and they're just as amazing as they were when I was little. But it's even nicer now because I can say a little bit more to them. But they invited me one night to go to watch some boxing, and I'm not a big sports person, but like I thought it'd be kind of cool to look into it, just because I don't have much experience with sports or anything like that. So I shouldn't say I'm not a sports person, but I don't know that I'm a sports person yet.
Yes, I love that.
But I went out with them, and there we were in Puerto Peñasco by the beach at some little venue, and they had a local boxing tournament, and it was cool. We had some beers and just relaxing, and then after that we went to the bars and sat out there and chatted for a while, and I really value that experience. It was probably the highlight of that entire trip.
Oh, that's awesome.
And if I had said no because I thought that I didn't enjoy boxing, or I didn't want to go out that late or something, then I would have missed out on that absolutely amazing experience.
No, 100%. I actually thought about that the other day because I had, been taking new classes and trying new things lately, and I used to say, like, I could never do improv. I would never do improv. I don't know how people do that. I would never do that. And then I did it, and I did well, and people were, we had a sort of a talk back, and people were saying, I really liked when Lindsay did this, and I got a lot of validation from that and affirmations, and I realized, why do I always say that I'm not good at something or that I don't like something when I don't know? Why not wait until, and yeah, we're all not great at everything. We all don't like everything. That's fine. But you don't know until you try. And so I always thought, oh, I can't do this. I can't do that. Well, fuck it. Like, I can. If I want to, I can try. And why deny yourself and say that you're not good at something when you could be great at something, but you haven't tried it yet? Don't put yourself down, and don't say that you don't like these things. And I mean, I could say that about like watching video games or liking video games. I used to not think that I would like video games, but then I love video games. I love watching people play video games. It's that kind of thing.
Ties back. I mean, it's kind of a silly analogy to say that ties back into the fixed mindset, growth mindset, because it's like growth mindset, enjoying video games. But
yeah, exactly.
like it's a really funny connection, but it does play into that opening the door to discovering new aspect of yourself, because it's kind of growing your own vision of yourself, right?
Yeah.
And if you say no to opportunities, that leaves you fixed in a single spot. And there could be something that will be your greatest, newest hobby, and you might not know it just because you might have turned something down.
Exactly.
In the moment, yeah.
Exactly. That seriously reminds me of the last podcast I talked about this class, because I ran into this girl I knew, and she told me, I teach a 6:30 a.m. class, fitness class. And I was like, oh, I used to be like, oh, I'd never be there. You know what I mean? Are you kidding me? 6:30? Like, no way. But then I did it, and I've actually really been loving it. And now I'm like, okay, I never knew that this could be me. Who knew? Like Lindsay 2.0, you know, like who knew that I would like this thing?
Lindsay.
Hell yeah. I've been up at 6 a.m. every day now, and I'm like, that's what's up. Like, I just really enjoy it, and I never knew that about myself until I pushed myself to try. And I get, like, a lot of people don't wake up that early, but that's okay.
It's so silly.
Because it's early.
I'm like this weird, like, I'm naturally not a morning person, but I get upset if I sleep in too late.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because then, like, your day's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, today I woke up and then I fell back asleep, which I never do. And I was like, oh, damn it. There goes all the time. Like, I could have been doing stuff. But, like, I love sleep, too. So it's a battle. I think getting up is hard, but being up is like, okay, it's just getting yourself out of bed.
Yeah. And this kind of made me think about something I wanted to bring up today, is that thinking about how we use our time, just, you don't have to be a workhorse, but if you really value yourself and your sanity, it's like efficiency is such like a huge concept that I feel like flies under the radar.
It is. Oh my gosh, I'm so with you on that. Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like it's just kind of cast off as this, you know, corporate sort of thing where it's like, oh, I have to do this many things in this amount of time, or I have to, you know, do this. It's like, yeah, that is one piece of it, but in terms of your daily tasks, efficiency plays a huge role in everything, because I've witnessed someone around me, and I kind of people watched a little bit. Mm-hmm. I was watching and kind of listening to what they had to say, and I could sense that there was a lot of frustration in their voice, because they had spent so much time on either a phone call or just handling whatever the situation was, and they were getting frustrated because they weren't quite getting anywhere. And that's totally fine, because those experiences will happen. But I feel like if you leave that experience frustrated and unwilling to think back to how you can do it better the next time, you know, that leaves you disadvantaged in the future. And I was having a wonderful conversation with our lovely friend Brett.
Oh, Brett.
Yeah.
Shouts out, Brett.
And he said, love yourself enough to value your future self. And efficiency plays into that.
Yes.
Be kind to your future self, you know, because when you go back and kind of improve upon that maybe possibly failed process, then that is giving love to your future self. Because in the future, when you go back to do the same thing, whether it's making a phone call to handle something with insurance company or who knows what, when you go in there with confidence and you know what to do, how to approach the situation, you're going to make it more efficient, it's going to get done faster, and you're going to be happier because you came out of it with a positive result. So efficiency is something that really can make you happy in the long run.
No, seriously. I think that we all tend to waste our time in some aspect. And I know for me, with waking up early, I like it because I automatically am more time efficient, if that makes sense. I know that, getting up at 10:30 doesn't make a huge difference, but my mentality is different because I think that I focus way more on a task, and then I finish it, and then I'm done, and it's over. Instead of dilly-dallying around and just taking my time and not giving it full effort, or procrastinating and not doing it when I could have been done, and then you can use that time.
Ooh, but I have something to say about procrastination.
Oh, yeah?
So
these are so good, such good topics, and also I love like the self thing. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but
yeah. thinking about procrastination, for like the longest time, I was like, oh, I wish I wasn't a procrastinator. Oh, this and that. But maybe, I have a theory, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe people love procrastinating because that deadline forces them to work in an efficient manner. I know for myself,
That's so true.
one of the main reasons why I have historically had a difficult time with starting something early is because I was inefficient with my time. It would drag on for too long, whereas if I left it to the last day, by golly, that 5-page paper is gonna be whacked out in 2.5 hours. You know, I'm
that's very true,
so
too.
efficient.
Yeah, that's true.
So now it's on me to think about how I can keep that efficiency, but maybe relieve some of the stress and push it back sooner.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how I'm gonna handle this one. I'll work something out.
Yeah, and I mean,
I want to throw that
for
out
me
there.
personally, like just thinking back to the last school year, there was a project we had to do, actually build models, and that was for like a stage, and that was really difficult. And for me, I just had to start and I had to do it ahead of time because I knew it would take longer instead of waiting. I couldn't do it at the last minute. It was one of those things. And then also that last quarter, I knew I had all these papers due and I had the whole quarter to do them. But knowing myself, I was thinking, I cannot wait till the last minute. Like, I can't do that to myself because I know I have all these projects going on. I know I'm going to be stressed out. I need to do them now. And then I got them done early so that I didn't have to worry about it. And doing those things for your future self. I always think, you know, what will future Lindsay think? Even little things. For example, one time I was lazy and I chucked an umbrella to the back of my closet. And I thought, oh shit, you know, I just know myself, in a few months when it rains, I'm gonna need that umbrella. So I wrote a Post-it note, and I put on my desk and I said, umbrellas in the back of the closet. And then when it rained, I was like, thanks, Pass, Lindsay. Like, you're welcome. It is so good. Like, it was so funny because I just, even those little things, even little notes, or, you know, just doing something that you know your future self will be happy with. And I love that Brett said that because that's so important, honestly, of doing those things for yourself and knowing to save yourself. I mean, procrastinating, yeah, you can definitely be more time efficient, but sometimes it can really hurt you later on, like especially if you're losing sleep or...
And that's... I wasn't necessarily promoting procrastination.
No, I know you
I was
were.
giving procrastinators something to value.
Exactly. No,
in
100%.
that aspect of themselves.
No, I love it.
Yeah, I'm totally wanting to learn, and you really, as a procrastinator, professional procrastinator, you really have to learn how to kind of recalibrate your timing, you know, and make it so that way you're not being stressed out at the last minute thinking, oh, I gotta do this, and I only have this amount of time. So I think, you know, that we're not perfect. So I'm still trying to think about how I can, you know, work things out. But
yeah, maybe like having a schedule of the time that you have to use and making, like, I have 2 hours and I'm going to do this in 2 hours, you know, sort of thing, because that could help. I just think, like, yeah, the time efficiency works, but I know some people that, like, they wouldn't sleep. They, like, pull an all-nighter, and that's so unhealthy. You don't want to, like, hurt yourself. So,
my body's going to make me sleep whether I like it or not.
Exactly. Oh, my gosh. I remember one time I literally I was falling asleep. I'd wake up, write a sentence, fall back asleep, wake up. I'm not even kidding you. It was the worst paper I've ever written. It was so bad, but it was okay because I learned from that.
I wish I could read it.
Oh, literally, I was like, I turned it in and I emailed it to my teacher and I said, I'm so sorry. And then she said, it's okay, you can redo it, because we had time too. So, and I knew it was just sort of like a first draft dumb thing. So, but it was funny. I was just like,
You know, it really, what it boils down to is just finding something that works for yourself. I know for me, if I'm in my room, like, I have a desk in my room. I don't know what that desk is for, because collecting mail. There's envelopes galore on it, in it, about it, around it, all the prepositions you could think of. There's mail at my desk.
There's just mail. It's basically an envelope.
Yeah, my workstation is coffee bean and tea leaf.
Oh, hell yeah.
I hit up that CBTL and I sit there for like 3-4 hours and, you know, bust out that paper.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like I said, it's about what works for you. If you realize something is making you inefficient, then actively try to filter out those things that are making things not so efficient. For me, if I'm at home, I am so tempted to just lie down in bed, cuddle with Pooh or Piglet or Eeyore, whomever from Pooh Crew, turn on that TV and watch Netflix or Hulu.
Yeah, exactly. No, 100%. I'm totally with you on that.
The temptation's real.
It is. It's so real. And for me, personally, I know that I have to do this thing now where when I need to focus, I have to turn my phone off, or I have to delete all social media apps. I remember in the fall quarter, I was so stressed out being at a new school and doing taking these really difficult classes. I just couldn't handle it because I know myself, and I know that makes me waste so much time. And then also I just am so drawn to it that I just can't help it. And so I literally had to pull myself out of that. And sometimes, just working in new places, or working in a place that home can be difficult to work in because you want to be relaxed in your home, and you should be. And I have a desk, and I do work sometimes at my desk, but I like to work in other areas of the house, like the dining room, like here, because I just think that I sort of get into a different mentality being there. And life is just trial and error and figuring out what works for you. Obviously, our advice is, it's helped us, and you should try it, but it may not 100% work for you, or you might have different aspects that work and don't work. I mean, it really just depends.
And I think another really important thing is, even if something is working for a short period of time, but then you somehow slowly revert back to your old ways, don't be so discouraged.
Yes. Yes.
Everything, you and I were kind of talking before about kind of how sometimes when even something like a text message, we send it out to someone, like we're waiting for that reply, and we're so anxious that we need kind of some immediate feedback. But once you get the message out there, it's heard, it's read, it's going to be considered.
Yes.
And so the same thing applies to yourself. If you tell yourself, like for me, part of this whole year of dentist thing is like, I'm going to find a way not to be such a procrastinator. I want to keep that efficiency, but also get things done ahead of time, so that way I can relax when I have that downtime. Because I think that's the biggest downside to procrastination, is that when you have your downtime, in the back of your head you're like, oh, I have this lesson to plan, oh, I need to do this unit plan that I haven't done. Like, it sits there and it dwells. So I've had my ups and downs with trying to lessen that procrastinating aspect of myself, but revisit that idea, revisit that thought. When you throw that idea out to yourself in your mind, you'll have heard it, and hopefully when you relax, it'll kind of come back to you, and you can try it again. You can always try again.
And it takes time. I mean, if you've been doing something for X amount of years and you change, it's not going to change overnight, and it's not going to stay. It's like grief, in the sense of, you move forward towards acceptance, but then there are still days that are difficult. Sometimes you might fall off, and that's okay, and you learn from that, and then you try next time, but that's going to happen. That's just because you're changing such a deep rooted habit of yours, and it's a habit, and you're trying to break it. You just have to kind of be patient with yourself in that sense.
Yeah, and I think that ties back into that loving yourself and not hating yourself.
Hell yeah.
For tripping and falling yet again. As long as you give yourself the time of day to make an effort and try and get yourself back up, that's, I think, the most important thing. Valuing effort.
Yes, effort. Because just saying that, oh, well, I'm better than that, it's not going to change anything. And I think, especially for art, and, we get criticized, or we do a bad job, or we weren't, I don't know, there are X amount of reasons of maybe why you didn't do as well on something, and then you feel like, oh, I never want to do that again. And it's seriously just breaking out of that, okay, well, that was one time, and I learned from it, and now I get to try again, because life is just that trial and error. And honestly, I mean, I go to the doctor and I see people, they don't know what they're doing either. Like, they're still making mistakes. Older people make mistakes too. Like, I know it seems like they don't, but they do. And everyone's still learning.
One little gem of knowledge that was bestowed upon me by, I think it was like my kindergarten or first grade teacher.
Nice. Those are important teachers. Yeah.
Yeah, this is some real learning here. It always stuck with me too. There was a sentence, others are capable too. And I know that we're talking about self, but you know how sometimes you see someone tripping and falling and you want to be like, oh, you do it this way. Oh, let me show you how to do it. Kind of let them make that mistake and learn from it. And in this way, you can be the outside viewer onto yourself, allowing yourself to trip, make that mistake, and learn from it.
That's so true.
Others are capable too can be, I am capable too, capable of making mistakes and learning from them, right? You need to allow yourself the time to try it again, to do it, just in the same manner that it's respectful to let other people try something, even if you instinctively want to run in there and
of course,
coddle them and show them how to do it.
Yeah, we all do, because we all know what, we empathize and we know what it's like to be kind of struggling, and so we want to even tell them what to do and show them what to do, and it is that learning for themselves and learning that way it sticks with them. So basically kind of what we've been talking about is accepting your flaws. I think for me, I've done a really good job of realizing what I have to work on and saying, like, I'm not good at this, or like, for example, a really weird, not very important flaw is I'm really bad at board games. Like, some games in general, but board games. I suck at board games, and I never knew why I didn't really like game night, but it's because I don't like board games, because I'm not good at them and I lose, but that's not that big of a deal. And also, okay, I'm bad at board games, like, oh well, you know what I mean? Just accepting the fact that's fine. And it can be bigger things too. I mean, there are things about myself that I may not like. For example, I compare myself to other people, and I don't like the fact that I do that, but that's natural, and I can work on that, and that's okay. And we do that in life, but we have to remember that we are on our own path, and we're growing on our own, and it's about making yourself better and comparing yourself to your old self instead of this other person. Because I think about, like, fitness people and how they can bench. I watch a video and people can bench, like, 55 pounds. A girl can bench like 55 pounds, and I can't do that at all. And I think, okay, well, maybe they've been doing it longer. Like, I don't know. But it's about my process and getting there on my own, and maybe I can get there, maybe I can't. But I have been doing better, and I have been improving, and I can lift 35 pounds now. So, like, that's something, and accepting those flaws. So
it boils down to, does what you're doing make you happy? Because if it's making you happy, then who is there to say that, oh, you should be doing this way, you should be doing it that way? Of course, there can be constructive criticism. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. It has a time and a place.
I love constructive criticism.
But when that constructive criticism turns into judgment, then that's when you need to be like, like, I'm going to stand up for myself.
Yeah.
Because this is what makes me happy.
Yes.
Right?
100%. No.
And you're the only person that you have to answer to, really.
Yeah. Maybe your parents if you still live with your parents, but...
Or the law enforcement.
Oh, or the law, yeah. Obey the law.
But you know what we're talking about. It's like, if you have taken on this new hobby that on the outside, some people might look at it as maybe something that doesn't fit you, or, they're kind of giving you like this, like, what the hell kind of look. It's like, does it make you happy? Yes, then keep doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as you're not harming someone else.
Yes.
Or putting other people down.
Yeah.
Then, and I would say as long as you're also not harming yourself.
Exactly.
Because there can be some
harming
self-destructive.
Others.
Yeah.
And, like, violence. Yeah.
Yeah, but as long as it makes you happy, go for it. If it's something totally positive, uplifting, doesn't matter. Go take your knitting class, even if you're some, like, huge buff dude that, like, everyone's like, what? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Makes you happy?
Ooh, if it makes you happy, just do it. Yeah, exactly. Like, who knows? It could be your new thing, and you'll meet people that, you know, are
By the
interested
way,
in that.
I've taken a sock knitting class and it was wonderful.
Oh my God, I'm really jealous, actually. I would like to take a knitting class.
I only knit like up to the heel.
No.
So I knit,
Only
like,
to the
half a
heel.
sock. So you have like a little booty?
Oh, hell yeah.
Little
No,
booty.
yeah. My friend Melissa, actually, she like makes hats and stuff. And so it was really cool that she does that. And I was always like, oh, I want to do that. That's something I could do. And that's another thing you could do. Write a list of the things that you'd like to do. And I've done this before where I've said, you know, I want to learn how to cook 5 new things. And I want to go to the new park in Irvine, and I want to, you know, just like things that you can do and actual activities. For me personally, I need structure, so that helps me, but you could have it in your head.
And I want to like kind of not really caution, but throw it out there that, you know, you can find a million different tips on Pinterest. You can find, you know, a million different things, searching blogs and things online or listening to us or something like that. And you might not take it seriously in the moment, but I'm kind of a firm believer that, like I said before, that message, it's reached you, it's settling in there, and you might not find this tip or this kind of technique or strategy appropriate in the moment, but don't necessarily write it off. Because a lot of these things that we're talking about, I thought was like just for that like Pinterest, Lululemon type crowd.
Becoming your best self.
Yeah, but as time goes on, I'm like really loving it, and I'm really enjoying these kinds of tips. And once you experience that little positivity high, it's like you're gonna crave more positivity.
Exactly. No, 100%. So just to recap, we had positive self-talk, self-date, the year of you, so whoever you are, the year of Lindsay, the year of Dennis, accepting your flaws, and just like taking those things and applying them and saying yes, and seeing how that can change your mentality of yourself and how you view things. Thank you so much, Dennis, for being here. It was so fun. This is great. We had a great time. Thank you so much to Melissa Schiller for her song, Do or Do Not, There Is No Try. It's off of her album, Misunderstandings, which is on Spotify. Thank you so much to Ernie, the sound guy, for all his help. And just remember that you're worthy of love, acceptance, and happiness. And everyone, I love you, but most importantly, you love you. Thank you so much. Bye.
I will try soon to come down from my non-reality up in